Good evening. I'm very excited to be here. I was born in Belgium, but I left a long, long time ago. So I'm Helene Guillaume. I'm the founder and CEO of Wild AI. So this is breaking news. It's still pretty daunting that women are not men, but it sounds quite obvious, but apparently for the medical world, it's not obvious. Today, still 80% of the medical research is done on males. If you go in a wet lab, you'll see all male mice. And when it comes to sports, it's even worse. Only 6% of research is done on women. And what it means is that we basically understand very little about our bodies as women. I grew up loving sports. Thanks for the intro. So I studied mathematics and financial risk. I was a quant in a hedge fund and a management consultant in AI. And in parallel of that, I was an athlete. I was a competitive rugby player, ultramarathon runner, and triathlete. We'll talk more about ultramarathons later with Carl. But I loved doing sports. And as a woman in sports, it pretty much sucks. Like, you can try really hard, and I loved it, but it's pretty grim. Like, there's no media, there's no money, prize monies are ridiculous. And it's changing a little bit, but growing up as a woman in sports, I just thought that there was no future in that. And it's pretty sad. Like, why are we at that stage? And when I was a little kid, I was a tomboy. So for those of you who speak French, a tomboy in French is un garçon manqué, which means a failed boy. It's like you try really, really hard, but you won't make it. And it's a weird concept, the concept of a tomboy, when you think about it. Because I was really just a kid who liked climbing trees and jumping in puddles and running around, which is pretty much what kids do. But very early, when we're kids, we are formatted that little girls have these brains that really only react to pink. So you have to offer them pink clothes because they love pink. And imagine, like, if you flip the story and you tell, now all boys, you're going to have orange toys, and that's it. It's just like a very weird concept. And scientifically, our brains are not fine-tuned to like pink or unicorns. But as we are growing up, we are formatting girls and closing their dreams. There's a very nice movie now on the dream gap. Like, when we are little girls, if you ask a little girl what she wants to do, very often they won't dream of becoming presidents or CEOs because we block their dreams when they're little girls. And on the flip side, we also have the boys. And why we're at this stage where in science, in research, in money, the women are not research. And it's because when you are in a courtyard with boys, the worst thing ever is to be a girl, is to be girly. And it's like you act in a way that is sensitive, emotional, and you're girly or you're gay. And we tell like something that is weak is being a pussy. By the way, having pushed a whole human out of my body, I can tell you that this concept of being weak equals being a pussy is a very weird concept, whereas if you flick at something that is really strong, which is having balls, so I just don't understand the origin of these sentences, pussy versus balls. But anyways, for little boys, if we teach little boys that the opposite of being great is being a girl or being girly, or being a pussy, which is the equivalent of being a girl, we grow up with men who do not care about women, who do not care about how our body functions, and who do not care about investing in science, in research, and in our bodies. We all heard these sentences, women are moody and bitchy, we're complicated, and we use that to mock women. It's pretty crazy. I always was really against all these sentences. There's a company called Moody, and we find it funny to just not understand women and take them as crazy people and just say, you're just moody and bitchy, we just don't understand you, you're a crazy person. The other day I was in a couple therapy session with my partner, which I highly recommend to everyone. We have a couple issues like everyone else. I'm pregnant, and I'm having this conversation with my therapist talking about my normal couples issues. And then she stops me and she says, okay, you're pregnant, I understand you're very hormonal. And then I snapped, and then I tried to understand why did I snap. And the reason is that she basically just told me everything that you said before is not valid. You do not, all these issues, they don't really exist. The only reason you feel that is because you are emotional. And this is how we are talked to as women. And when we look at like going backwards, like the origin of that, like how come all these things are taboo? Like how come our bodies as women are taboo, or fluids as women are taboo? Period blood is taboo. And if you think you're like we're more like advanced as society, like who here, you don't really have to raise your hand, but who here has period sex? It's like it's a very big taboo thing, whereas actually it's a great moment for women to have sex. From day 3 of their periods, women have high sex drive, natural lubricant, but it's very taboo. Sweat, we're not supposed to sweat. Cervical fluids, they're disgusting, horrible. You can buy at the pharmacy some chemical products to put on your vulva to remove all the taste and the smells. But where are the sperm products to remove the smells? Like again, it's a fucked up industry, and like it's actually harming the female body and the pH. The breast milk, like you can actually maintain a whole human alive, doubling its weight in 6 months just by breast milk, but it is a total mystery. We never talk about it in science books. We never talk about it. Who knows how many milk ducts a breast has? Any woman who has breastfed maybe has checked, but it's between 1 to 15 milk ducts. So there's like, and again, it's a total mystery about all these female fluids, because instead of thinking that they're absolutely incredible and things that we should really discover and understand because they are so interesting, we hide them behind and we think they're taboo. So growing up, I never thought I had an amazing body. I just thought it was really annoying. I was a woman. The holy grail is this male body. They're faster, they're stronger. And then going through puberty, I have a menstrual cycle. It's really annoying. And then eventually, like the story is women are getting pregnant. So then they're not able to work. And then at the end of their life, they have menopause. So it's basically a shitty life the whole way through. And I was pregnant, and then I realized, but the marketing on my own body is completely wrong. Like, I create I create humanity. We women create all of you. So I am God. And also, if you look at these stories in these books, these big fact books, there's these stories of these guys turning the bread and turning it into some flesh. And then I thought, but I take bread and I metabolize it and I pop an arm. And I drink fluids and I metabolize it. And there's blood. So where is the story coming from? There's no science that says that God is actually a man. But somehow we have said that women do not have really a place in society. If you look at the origin of our westernized society, it comes from monotheist religions, Christianism. In Christianism, there's 2 women. There's a virgin and there's a prostitute, Mary Magdalene. And if you think of the word of the virgin, it's like you're coming to a place, and then you have Jack, you have James, and then you're like, hi, I have never had sex. Like, this is how she introduces herself. This is how we talk about that woman, about her being so pure that she has created something cool, Jesus, but she's so pure. And this is how we are formatted as a society, is thinking the only women that are worth are these pure women. And when you look at school, when you look at university, a woman who's enjoying pleasure is not someone that we should hang out with or we should be married with. And it's really damaging in the long term. So we should go back to, like, why are we thinking of that? Looking at this little boy and never to tell him things like diminishing the girls around us. A little bit of science now. So women go through these big life stages, and it's really important to understand them. It really impacts our body. So we have menstruations, then we can take birth controls. Imagine again, if you are a man and you're taking testosterone, the impact it has on your body. Imagine now a woman has natural hormonal changes or artificial because she's taking birth control. We are prepartum, pregnancy, postpartum, or other cycles like egg freezing, IVF, or natural occurring Chronic illnesses like endometriosis, polycystic syndrome, 10% of women have it. So all of these big hormonal changes that women are encountering all the time, perimenopause, menopause, we don't understand it. And then for 40 years, we have a menstrual cycle. So the menstrual cycle is not the period. The period is the beginning of the menstrual cycle, leads up to ovulation, and then at the end of the cycle, we have premenstrual symptoms. And then throughout that, actually our underlying metrics are changing. So women are not moody and bitchy and complicated. We actually follow time series patterns. And if we understand them, it's really powerful. You might have read that shift workers, so people who work at night, they live shorter and then they also have more disease. So this is because we all have a daily cycle. I wake up in the morning, I'm pumped, I go in the evening, I'm tired. And if you don't respect that, you're damaging your body because you are not going with your cycle. As women, it's the same. We have a naturally occurring menstrual cycle. If we don't understand it, if we don't respect it, we are going against it. But if you have to perform, because we have always performed, it doesn't matter. If you look at Olympians going to Japan to perform, they will do their best PR. So if we have to perform, we will perform as well. And so now there's more and more research on the differences between men and women. So you might also have read this one, which is ACL injuries is highly prominent in women. When we ovulate, the body opens up to get pregnant every single month. So joint laxity opens up. It doesn't mean we cannot train. It means we have to train as if the muscles had to take the weight. So what we've done in my company at World AI, we've done years of research looking at how does the female body function. So we've done 451 white papers analysis, turned that into an app, and now we have a live app helping women eat, exercise, and recover with their menstrual cycle if they have one, or with their symptoms if they're in menopause, perimenopause, or use birth control. And then we have a coach dashboard, and now we're opening an API as well. This is the app. So we take data from wearables, manual input, gives us a readiness score, and then based on the score, we provide recommendations on what to eat, how to train, how to recover on a daily basis. And what came out of that, some of the analysis that we're doing, is we have this readiness score. So it's basically, this is a combination of multiple menstrual cycles. And at the bottom, you see that it's the periods at the beginning, ovulation, and then late luteal. What is really interesting is that we discovered that women very traditionally follow a bell curve. So we peak at ovulation in terms of performance and readiness, and then we go down towards the end of the cycle. And what it means is that if we can hit high-intensity workouts when we ovulate and go more into endurance at the end, we really take the most advantage of our body. And then what we also expanded is into other life stages, so birth control. So birth control is really interesting. It's artificially impacting our body with artificial hormones or non-artificial. As a quick recap, there's 3 types of birth control: combined, so progestin and estrogen, progestin only, and non-hormonal, like the copper IUD. And the way they work is that they thicken the mucus, so the sperm doesn't go through. They thin the lining, so if there is an ovulation, it doesn't implement, and they stop or not the ovulation. And as women, when we go to the gynecologist trying to find options, we never explain our options, what might work for our body or not. So, and then when we enter a new life stage, which is perimenopause. So perimenopause is a new word for most people. It's this 1 to 10 year when we start really shifting in our symptoms. So the one symptom that we very traditionally know is the hot flushes, but there's many more: brain fogs, memory loss, the weight, the fats are on our bodies at different places that we never used to. So it's really interesting to be able to understand this, because we can actually really prevent the negative symptoms and take advantage of our bodies. This is a graph like what every single woman will go through throughout her life. So at the end, we have postmenopause. Menopause is the 12 months birthday of not having a bleeding, and all the time before is called perimenopause. From around our 40s up to the 50s is really when we start shifting. One important factor as well is our bone density go down. You've probably heard like your mom or your grandmother who fell in the bathtub and broke her hip. That's because our bone density go down. But we can prevent that. So one thing that is really important as women is really understanding how can we age well, how can we prepare, because aging is amazing. It means we're alive, but how can we prepare for it? So weightlifting, nutrition, behavior. And then we created a coach dashboard as well to be able to, if we have coaches, nutritionists, or doctors, they can also track where all the women are. And an academy to be able to upskill coaches and people who work with women. How does the female physiology work 101? And women love it, so we work with Olympians, pro athletes, women in the military, so really pushing the boundaries of research and performance. And our coaches also find it really empowering because finally, like now on TikTok and on Instagram, a lot of people are talking about this science, but how to apply it and how to understand it properly. So we are training these coaches and giving them a certification. At the very beginning, I was saying women are not men. And it was a surprise. But when I started a company 6-7 years ago, like when I was saying that no one really understood, I hope by now you have heard these sentences, cycle syncing or hormone syncing. And now like there's more and more awareness around that. There's a big budget in the US that has just been passed by Biden, focusing on women's health. And we really need to change our perception of how we understand women and how we're focusing in. And this is why now we've been doing a lot of education. We are in press, in places like here, and hopefully we are passing this message. And we're also doing research with universities to be able to continue advancing the research. This is a subset on doing how does the concussion level impact women differently. So one thing that is interesting is ovulation is our peak time, but it's also the time where our immunity is the lowest because our body is meant not to attack the sperm. So does it mean that if we have a concussion, will it impact differently our body? And in terms of recovery, will it be different as well? Another interesting factor that we looked at is that heart rate variability. So a lot of us are wearing O-rings or Garmins, and heart rate variability seems not to be a good expression of the readiness score of women. For men, it's actually really good and an amazing metric, but for women, it isn't because our vagal nerve is impacted by the progesterone, the varying on the body. And so how can we have wearables that are functioning for us? So as a leaving word, what I would love you to think of is, my objective is that women think very differently about their bodies, that the marketing about ourselves was wrong. So we need to think about our bodies being this insanely powerful, very fine-tuned machine. Like if you think of, like men are like tractors, they're like consistent all the time, and women are like Ferraris, like we perform really well and then we have to rest, a little bit like an athlete. But this is amazing, like we have to take advantage of this power. And the other thing I want to leave you with is women are creating the whole of humanity, so call your mom. Thank you.
Do you still remember the time when you discovered you were God?
Ooh. I was pregnant with my first daughter, and I did have this moment where I was thinking, why are people, and actually I live in Portugal in a place where they really love kids and they love pregnant women. Like you go somewhere and they probably look at me like as if I was God. And I was thinking, why did I always think that it was something that was going to be annoying? I was fundraising at the time, and I was really scared to tell my employees and my investors that I was pregnant because I thought that it would impede my possibilities. And then I tried to think, if I think that, of course they're thinking that too. So I have to flip that in myself. So,
yeah. Do you know that God created Trump?
Oof. I'm actually non-religious. It was an analogy to make people understand that women are amazing.
Women are amazing. You are as well. Thank you very much for being here. Thank you very much. Give her a warm applause.
Thanks.